In today's video we're going to take a look at this brochure for the Range Rover. This dates from around 1981 or so. So let's get started. We've got a nice fold open affair which shows the sheer diversity of people that have bought and owned Range Rovers. We also see that they are still marketing the original 2/3 door example alongside the 5-door, which became the mainstay of the range. So you can see really that the whole brochure is done in a very similar style to Jaguar brochures of this era, and I think they are sort of appealing more to the more affluent customer. So we start off with what is really the base of the range, or the bottom of the range you could say, and that is, I think they call it the Fleet line if I remember rightly, and it emphasises the fact that it is a practical estate car, a practical city car, and a very practical tow vehicle. We then go on to this particular scene where it emphasises the fact that it really is a capable off-roader, among other things. And we'll just focus on the word in here so that you can obviously see what is being said. I mean, feel free to pause the video if you want to read this. Then onto this side where it shows a few more things about just how diverse the Range Rover's capabilities are. And it really is just sort of a showcase of what it can be used for. And really the whole emphasis is the fact that it is pretty much every single car you could possibly ever need. Now I like this one. So what you've got is you have this Range Rover and it's being used for farming duties, and you've got this chap here dressed in traditional country attire talking to this gentleman who looks like he's been hunting. But if you open the brochure, you'll see the same gentleman now in evening attire with the same Range Rover attending a very fancy evening function. And just behind it, another of British Leyland's products of the time, a Series 3 Jaguar XJ. So really emphasising the fact that it is a car for all seasons and all events, and some very posh looking people. And there's a dog as well, that's nice. But I do rather like that. Same photo, or well, same position, but you've got before and after. Day, weekend. Now the emphasis on luxury, accessible luxury in this instance. And it was around this time that more and more luxury features, mainly as options, were being added to the Range Rover. One of the options was air conditioning. And you can actually see the air conditioning option here with this rather amusing separate control module, separate from the normal heating and ventilation module. Still using that traditional dashboard. There we have the 3.5 litre V8, breathing through twin Strombergs, and that was the mainstay of the range until the diesel option came in about 1984. Under bonnet lights with sound deadening, rather nice lockable centre console, rear seat pockets and rear ashtray. vanity mirrors, door speakers, everything carpeted. And if you look at this from the perspective of owning a Land Rover, this was really luxury that you would previously sort of think would be unheard of. Interesting position for the radio as well. This was corrected on later versions to put it into a more conventional position. But the early models had this really sort of quite discreet little dash pod there with auxiliary gauges down here and over here. In fact, you can see them there. Four-speed transmission with high and low range. Then we come on to some of the technology that was involved with this rather unusual ride levelling system, which was basically this large damper placed pretty much in between the rear wheels, and that it was a self-energising ride levelling unit, so that was probably a Bosch Nevomat of some description. But you can see it just sort of plonked there rather unceremoniously, almost as if it was a bit of an afterthought. However, the side effect is this centre arrangement did give a bit of extra axle location for what is essentially a live solid rear axle. On the front, fairly conventional setup. You have these sort of, you can't call them really McPherson struts, but they are of that similar to the concept. Sturdy ladder frame chassis. And the chassis was apparently comprehensively protected against corrosion, had structural rigidity, and protects certain key components from damage. Also assists in a low centre of gravity as well. Then we have the brakes, and it looks like at the front it had dual piston calipers. Interestingly, it actually shows a 6-stud arrangement, whereas the Range Rovers were 5-stud, as you can see here. So quite interesting that they used a slightly different diagram. I don't know if there was another product in their range that had 6 studs. I can't remember anything that did, to be honest with you. Now you've got the ride energising unit. Everything looks to be bolted onto the chassis rather than welded, which means that it's, well, first off, it's very easy to replace should you need to, but arguably it's not as rigid as it could be if it was welded. I mean, here's a good example. These spring towers are bolted rather than welded. Then we have the specifications and various options. The 4-door was actually top of the range, 2-door was the middle of the range, and the Fleet line was bottom of the range. You didn't even get power steering on the Fleet line. Alloy wheels were optional across the range, and it was those, what they call the Mustang style wheels. Early Fox body Mustangs had sort of a 3-spoke alloy design that was very similar to the Range Rover. I think it was the Mustang that had them first, and the Range Rover kind of copied the design, or rather the engineers at Range Rover. So these were the various options that were available. So air conditioning was actually optional on all models. Includes a cubby box on 2-door and Fleet line, which is quite nice. Towing equipment optional across the range. Front mud flaps again optional across the range. But really, from the perspective of luxury, that was it, to be honest with you. Although you did get the option pack for the top of the range 5-door, which gave you those aforementioned alloy wheels, metallic paint, wood veneer door cappings, and load space carpeting. But that was again an option. Leather rim steering wheel was standard on the 2-door and 4-door. Head restraints with detachable headrest pads, standard on the 2 and 4-door. And rubber floor mats were, what were they? standard across the range. Now the vinyl seat coverings were standard on the Fleet line, but velvet seat coverings or velour was standard on all other models. So Fleet line really was the bottom of the range. A little bit about the production and testing, including photographs of the assembly line. And then a little bit more about specifications, including measurements, load volumes and towing capacities. And you can see the shift in the general motor industry from imperial to metric, because imperial measurements are in brackets, metric outside of brackets. And then the basic specification details. Gives you quite a bit of information about the vehicle. And super cover, which was part of, well, the entire Leyland range at that point. And there we go. And actually, if you open it like that, you get the whole Range Rover shown there. And there we go. Anyway, for the moment, that is the end of today's video. If you found this interesting, don't forget to hit the like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Take care, thanks for watching.